You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international, and yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Thursday, which we like to preferably call Friday Eve. And Boomer's on the board. Hey, buddy. How are you?
I'm good.
It's your least favorite day.
Yeah, but, it'll be over soon.
But first, we got a 3-hour show to do.
That's right.
That's right. All right. Hey, we got a great show laid on for you, by the way. So just so as you know, Thursday is that thing that one of my favorite time of the week. We call it Boomer and McQueen. So McQueen joins us here in the studio. Boomer and McQueen. We ask questions. We swap. McQueen is not available 2 weeks in a row now because she has a commitment she has made, and we honor that. Although we miss her, but absolutely, we're going to guess who the sub is for today. It's Boomer and Lee from Huntsville.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, 3:30 p.m., Boomer and Lee from Huntsville will be doing that, and I'm looking forward to it. At 4 o'clock, former Congressman Mo Brooks is going to call in. We'll talk with him about several things that are going on in and around the state, the redistricting, and then what was this deal with State School Board member Wayne Reynolds trying to ping him on an ethics charge? Well, that didn't work. Anyway, we'll talk to former Congressman Mo Brooks about that at 4 o'clock. And then I got a triple dipper, so hit it.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. So, number 1, Bidenomics. Oh, yeah, he's embraced it. It's the title he's going with. He's decided to claim the mantle of Bidenomics, and he gave a speech yesterday. No joke, man. Anyway, we'll talk about it. How's that Bidenomics working out for you? Yeah, we'll cover the numbers and give that a run. That's number 1 on the Triple Dipper. Number 2, you know the deal. Every once in a while when I'm resourcing the show, I start thinking through what's happening around here, what's going on in our own house, what is happening around Alabama, and as a result, we wind up cooking up a whole batch of home fries. So, yep, that's today. Number 2 on the Triple Dipper, got a batch of home fries to go over. And then number 3, I began looking at how much stuff the liberals put out or ask us to buy into that is just fake. I mean, we got fake women, we got fake meat, we got all kinds of stuff. I'm calling number 3 on the Triple Dipper a fake world. And that's what they keep trying to give us, is a fake world. So we're not going for it, and we'll talk about it number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, that's the show for the day. Let me move on here to my comments. And I got to ask you, do you remember a few years ago, Gladys Knight sang the national anthem at the Super Bowl? And it was right during the height of that time that Colin Kaepernick, that guy that failed at playing football but succeeded at becoming a liberal icon, yeah, that guy. It was at the height of the time that Kaepernick set the stage for liberals to believe that it was acceptable, righteous, even expected that people should kneel down in disrespect of our national anthem. Never mind the fact that every one of those knucklehead pro athletes that took a knee is getting rich off the free market capitalism they are so quick to decry. Anyway, I digress. So Gladys Knight, she sang the national anthem, did a beautiful job, and she was interviewed later by CNN's former commentator Don Lemon, that uber-liberal guy, Don Lemon. Before singing the Star Spangled Banner at the Super Bowl, she was interviewed, I take it back, she was interviewed right before she sang it. He wanted to know if she was making what he referred to as a bad career choice. Lemon was arguing that her career would suffer if she didn't make some kind of gesture in support of the kneelers and Colin Kaepernick. Here's her response. This is what Gladys Knight said. She said, "People are going to have their opinions about whatever. All I can deal with right now is what my heart says, okay? I grew up with the national anthem. We used to sing it in school before school started. We used to say prayers in school before school started. We just don't have that anymore. I'm just hoping it'll be all about our country and how we treat each other and being the great country that we are." Well, Kaepernick's lawyer, a guy named Mark Garagos, he said that performers who sing the national anthem are crossing what he called an intellectual picket line. Whatever. What Don Lemon and Mark Garagos did not count on was that Gladys Knight did not apologize for not kowtowing to their liberal dogma. She basically said, sorry, not sorry. You see, liberals always seek out the apology because most liberal beliefs stem from having a victim mentality. They need you to be remorseful. They need you to even be shamed. They need your apology because your apology vindicates their agenda. Woe is me, I'm a disenfranchised individual, therefore you should acknowledge that you are my oppressor. I don't have as much as you, therefore you have privilege. I don't feel comfortable hearing your opinions, therefore you should be silenced. I'm offended by your very existence, therefore I should ensure that you cannot be seen or heard. I mean, think about it. Every time there's a conflict with liberals, it stems from not being willing to back down, from not being willing to voluntarily cave and apologize for simply not agreeing with their wackadoo, nonsensical inability to cope with reality. This is why former collegiate swimmer Riley Gaines has the left so flummoxed, because she is unapologetic in her stance that biological men, even when they call themselves fake women, should not be allowed to compete in women's sports. This is why the Democrat Party has no idea what to do about Robert Kennedy Jr. running for president, because he is unapologetic in his stance that the COVID vaccines were a really bad idea. This is why Ron DeSantis infuriates the left, because he demands that Disney stay in their lane and quit advocating for the sexualization of children. This is why Bud Light is no longer the king of beers, because the American beer-drinking public is unapologetic in being sick and tired of being woke preached by beer makers. Now, think back to the heyday of the George Floyd riots, as BLM organized the Summer of Love and burned our cities. They were the victims, they cried. So they looted and burned their way to gain the appeasement and the apologies of weak and feckless leaders everywhere. Corporate America rushed to give them money and express their solidarity. How many mayors and other public officials chose to bow and just get down on their knee, literally bow at the head of a BLM protest march? It happened all over the nation. I know for a fact of one Alabama sheriff who bowed down and demanded that his deputies with him do likewise. Mayors in Alabama and elsewhere. And what did it actually get them? Look out at liberal Portland, Oregon, Mayor Ted Wheeler. It's a classic example. Wheeler stood with crowds of protesters who launched fireworks, threw garbage, and started fires outside of a federal courthouse. And at their protest, he gave a speech bashing President Trump's decision to bring federal agents to enforce the law and protect federal property, and praising his own acquiescence, his police reform measures like reducing the department's budget. Well, did it help? No, not by a stretch. The crowd actually turned on him, destroyed even more of his city. And now, these several years later, Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler is desperately, to this very day, trying to rebuild the police department that he tore apart. You see, my point is this. Apologies do have their place. When we are wrong, we need to own the wrong, confront our actions, and ask forgiveness of those we've hurt. That is wholly and completely separate from my point here today. Today, what I'm suggesting is that begging forgiveness from those who just want to hurt us and tear us down only emboldens them. Liberals seek the apology so they can bolster their own claims of victimhood. See, I told you we were the victims. That's why he apologized. Well, every time we give a little ground to liberals, they demand more. Every time we apologize for simply having a differing and well-intended value or belief system, they pounce for more. It is antithetical to common sense to believe that if we apologize for being right, that they will agree that we are right and should be allowed to move forward with our right beliefs. No, they want blood. They want capitulation. Liberals demand apologies, but they have no idea what to do with people who don't cave into their demands. Don Lemon was so out of his league with Gladys Knight. So here's the bottom line. I'm a Christian. I'm a conservative. I believe that God is good, that America is exceptional, that Alabama is beautiful, that there's still absolutes. And I believe, like so many of you, that things like limited government, strong families, and low taxation, and school choice, and free markets, and the value of our U.S. Constitution, those are all worth fighting for. And I make no apologies, not for any of it. Sorry, not sorry. And I'm going to go download some Gladys Knight on my playlist now. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Well, there you have it. And yeah, that is the thing. Liberals will demand an apology, and they do because their agendas are so often rooted in the idea of victimhood. They need your apology to validate who they say they are and what their agenda really is. And they have no idea what to do when we don't apologize. Stay the course. Sorry, not sorry. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Phone lines and text lines are open. It's 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. And a bunch of texters already in there. I can see. And by the way, I don't know how to pronounce. Is it Nico or Nicho? I don't know which way, but he's from Hampton Cove, brand spanking new in the text line. I'm going off the way he spelled it, so I say he. Could be a she. We need clarification. Anyway, glad you're in the text line. I got a caller online. Is that Jeff already? Jeff from Indiana. I hear there are congratulations in order, my brother.
Yes, they are, Phil.
Tell me.
About 1:45, my son, so I'm another granddad again.
Whoop,
His
whoop.
first.
Play some applause for us, Boomer. We got to have that right now. There you go. There you go.
Thank you very much. I had nothing to do with it.
Well, you generationally had something to do with it, but that's great, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations. We're glad for you. Everybody good? Mom's good? All of it?
Yeah, everybody's doing great. If it had been room in the hospital yesterday, I'd have been there for the birth and everything since we was already there with the wife.
I
So
know.
they had the same hospital. So.
Well, but she's doing better today too, though, right?
Yeah, she's doing great today. Just a little sore is all.
Well.
But she's doing fine.
Well, good deal. Well, all right, man. Well, congratulations. So you're still on the road, though, or are you heading back up there?
I just passed Buc-ee's, yeah. I'm heading home now.
Well, all right, brother. What's on your mind? What you think? You got anything about the show, or are you just calling to give us your announcements?
Well, both. But I do want to apologize to the liberals, though. I want to apologize because I didn't do enough to keep them from self-harm and harming others. If we'd have did some more, maybe, and everything, and try to take these people in and try to, these people are truly mentally deranged. I mean, because they're dragging the country down. They're not only hurting you and me; they're hurting themselves because they're so reliant upon the government. When the government collapses, there's going to be a lot of them that will just vanish, just die, basically, because they don't know how to take care of themselves and they rely completely on government help.
Yeah, it's something to watch, man. And you're right. They are so reliant on externals to get anything done that they don't know what to do if the external sources they have go away, like the government. And but they also, I don't know if you caught the part in my monologue a minute ago, they demand apologies because they live in a victim mentality at all times.
Just like the Biden thing, I think they said, 30-some-odd% of the people think he's doing a good job. Those 30% are truly deranged. I don't know what planet they're on, but it's sure not. They're not on this one, I don't think.
They're the ones. They're the ones lining up to get their free stuff, I guess, from all the big spending we've had in the last few years. But yeah, I mean, it's.
I guess it's.
Go ahead.
I guess it's the 30-some% that don't watch any real news. Just sit there and watch MSNBC and CNN.
Well, they don't listen to Rightside Radio. We know that.
That's for sure.
All right, man. Well, hey, be safe on the road, and congratulations again. Blessings on everybody in the family, especially that new little bundle of joy.
Thank you very much, Phil. I appreciate it.
All right, brother. We'll see you. That's awesome. I love that. You know, here's what we're going to have to do, man. I've already decided. We're going to have a gathering. Boom. We're going to have a gathering at some point. And we're going to make sure that some of these voices that people hear all the time are there, and then we're going to call the roll. Because everybody hears the voice, and they always wonder, what does he or she look like? You know? So I want to call the roll, and I mean, just to name a few, we're going to have all right, Jeff from Indiana, stand up, and then Sparky from Harvest, stand up, and Lee from Huntsville, stand up, and
I like this.
Brian from Huntsville, and John from Huntsville, and
see, that would be a blast.
I think that'd be a hoot, man. And we got listeners all over the place. We'll have to make sure they're there. So we can call the roll and people can go, you don't look like I expected. I pictured you being taller.
Yeah. I get it.
Hey,
So
last night
I was just about to bring this up. So guys, I know we talked a lot about some amazing cereal yesterday.
Yes, we did.
And so last night I happened to go home and I sent the Colonel a nice picture right before, just on my wind down of the evening.
It's a big old bowl.
It was a big old bowl of Frosted Flakes.
Yes, it was.
And then
I sent him back. I was eating a bowl of Fruit Loops.
it was perfect. It was just perfectly epic at the same moment.
I came home and Charlene, she had dinner and she looked at me. She said, "I pretty much expected you to text me ahead of time and say, I'm just having cereal tonight." I said, "No, I'm having that for dessert."
McQueen wasn't home, so I just had cereal.
Oh,
for that night.
So that was bachelor dinner for
It was
you.
bachelor dinner. That's what it was.
Did the kids have to eat cereal too?
No, they had already eaten, so
okay.
it was. They actually got a good meal, I'm sure.
Where you had Frosted Flakes.
I had Frosted Flakes.
They're fortified with 8 essential vitamins and iron.
That's right.
By
And they're
God.
great.
It's awesome. I don't know that I've seen many things go quite as viral on the show as that one did yesterday.
I know.
I mean, how many daggum text messages did we have? Looking at text messages right now, Anita from South Huntsville. Phil, your monologue perfectly illustrated why I am not a fan of some on the right that demand an apology from Bud Light. Okay. I don't want to hear them grovel. They simply express their values, and now I want nothing to do with their product because of it. Fair enough. I don't want them to apologize either. I just want them to stay in their lane and, experience the joys of making the wrong calculation on your marketing. JT from Lacey Springs says, liberals are just squeaks with no wheels to be greased. Run that through your noggin a minute. They are just squeaks with no wheels to be greased, says JT. John from Huntsville, it's so hot today you can cook a batch of home fries on the hood of your car. Also, Boomer, don't put so much pepper on those home fries because last time I thought somebody was going to have to perform the Heimlich maneuver on Phil. Was that home fries day? I guess it was.
I think it was.
That
You're
had
right,
nothing,
yeah.
I was not choking on a home fry. Jerry from Decatur just said, airborne. Appreciate you, Jerry, all the way. Bruce from Hazel Green says, only person I will ever bow down to is our Lord and our God. There you go, sir. Wade from Huntsville, LGBTQ stands for Let's Get Beer, Tacos, and Quesadillas.
I like that.
I may have to put that on a T-shirt.
Yes.
Yeah. And then David from Athens says, libs want us to buy into climate change. I'm a firm believer in global warming, climate change. If not for them, we would still be in the Ice Age. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, what time we got here? I see I got a caller coming in. I don't know that we've got enough time for that one. Boom, tell him to hang on through the break and we'll do it that way. Hey, coming right back, we got number one of the Triple Dipper, Bidenomics, coming up top of the hour. We'll have an opportunity to switch over to home fries. And then don't forget, this is a day when it would have been Boomer and McQueen. It's going to be Boomer and Lee from Huntsville. All right, y'all stay tuned. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the most beautiful state in the nation. That would be this one. That would be Alabama. I'm talking about this show goes way on down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, thrown in just for good measure. All right. Hey, I tell you what, I got a caller. He held on during the break. Let me honor his time. Is that Wolverine Dan? Wolverine Dan, how you doing, buddy?
Listen, brother, you need to do that. Get us all together, and we can stand up and identify each other.
There we go.
Have a big time with. And you got sponsors. Find a restaurant around here that you sponsor with, and I'm sure Megan half the will show up.
I'm for it, man. And we'll cook up a batch of home fries together. What do you think?
Well, I'm cutting back on the fries. Actually, the way you'd recognize me, I'm a silver-haired, 64-year-old with a six-pack.
That's not a six-pack of Bud Light, right?
No. Remember John F. Kennedy Jr.? You got a picture of him working out?
Yeah.
That's me.
Oh, nice.
No, dude, I'm not kidding you, dude. I am dead serious. I got a 45-year class reunion, and I committed myself. I was also committed to myself to do something about it, man. And you know what? That's what you call initiative. That's what you call motivation. That's what you call pride in yourself.
That's exactly
and we're
right.
Losing that, dude. The Edge, World War II veterans, the greatest society of all time, not only did they work hard for themselves, but they worked even harder for their country, and they gave up a bunch of stuff. And we're losing that edge, dude.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not. Until the day I die, I'm going to keep on getting up early before the sun rises, and when it sets later in the evening, I'll put my head on the pillow, and I'll fall asleep, dude. But you know what? I'm also going to be part of that society back in the day, which I wasn't the World War II vet, of course. But you know what? I respect that. And I want to emulate that, okay? We all need to emulate that. We all need to get up and get a six-pack, for crying out loud. Not the drinking one. I'm talking the real one on your stomach, dude.
I'm with you, man. I appreciate it. And I can hear it in your voice. So, yeah. All right. So, listen, we will have a gathering at some point in the near future. I'll figure it out, and we'll just expect to call the roll and see you there.
And we bring some liberals, too, bring them in. I say, listen, this is how it's going to be if you want to be conservative. It's wonderful life.
That's right. And you know what? There's a few of them listening to this show. We'll go ahead and reach out to them and say, come on down. But
yeah, I'm not hating on liberals, dude. I just want them to realize there is prosperity, and everybody gets a piece of the pie. You just got to make the effort.
All right. Wolverine Dan, we appreciate you, man. Have a great one.
I see you, brother.
See you, man. Yeah, text lines and the phone lines all together. Just go ahead and jump on in where you can and hang on. Number is 833-687-4448. Let me grab my notes here, my resources. By the way, the resources are up. Resources are up. I'm looking at Boomer now that I said that out loud. Yes, they are. He confirmed. The resources are up. If you go to our website, rightsideradio.org, you hear me rattling paper. If you hear that paper rattle, that means there's a resource somewhere on there. You want to check it out, you can. So you go to our rightsideradio.org website, go to the live stream page, and right above the video streaming of the show, like you can see us inside the studio right here, there's a button that says resources. Click on it, and every article that I rely on for the Dippers, they're all there for you to find. And if you want to send them to somebody or read them for yourself or whatever, there they is. All right, number one, Triple Dipper, Bidenomics. So, do you remember back a few years ago when it was the Obama-Biden administration, and they passed Obamacare? And at first it was like, liberals were like, it's a slight. We shouldn't be calling it Obamacare. They're trying to say something by saying that. And then Obama himself came out and said he was embracing the term. Oh, in other words, he decided to make it his own. And he did. And, I guess I got to give him props for that. He went out there and said, if they're going to use that word and put my name on it, heck, you know what? I'll take it. And he did. But what it did was it for him, I think it changed the tone. It wasn't like he was trying to run from being labeled as the author or the man behind Obamacare. He was grabbing the mantle of it and claiming the word, like making it a brand. Well, I think the Biden administration is trying to do that now. I think they're trying to take a lesson from that, but it's just not working. Because in that case, We couldn't see the future yet. We could predict that Obamacare was going to be a debacle in some ways. We could predict that, no, we really wouldn't be able to keep our doctor if we wanted to. We could predict all that stuff, but we couldn't see it yet. We hadn't experienced it yet. Biden, on the other hand, is coming in 2 years after the fact with 40-year record inflation and an economy that is just not hitting it, trying to portray himself as being the author of Bidenomics and embrace the term and make it his own. He came out and gave a speech yesterday. I believe he was at the main post office building in Old Chicago. And he came out and he pitched his whole Bidenomics thing ahead of his, soon to be fully contested 2024 election. And he basically went after it as if everything is beautiful. Here's the question I would ask you. It's the age-old question. Measure what he's saying about the economy, about Bidenomics. Just ask yourself, am I better off right now than I was 4 years ago? Hang on, I'll pause. The answer is no. So, unless you love inflation, unless you love lower GDP, unless you love a near recession, unless you love higher interest rates, unless you love bacon being 17% higher than it was a few years ago, then the answer to the simple question I just asked is no. Economically, we are not in a better position than we were before he took office. Now, here's the other thing. I recognize that when a president takes office, it's not his economy yet. He has to begin owning it, but technically, for a little bit of time, you could say, well, my predecessor caused this. He doesn't have that luxury anymore. In fact, it's gotten worse on his watch. One study I've got says that the economy in his first year in office had a 5.7% increase. It grew by 5.7%. In the second year he was in office, it only grew by 2.1%. That's a 3% difference in growth, just about 2.5%. That's a significant drop. That's Bidenomics. So here's the deal. He came out, and here's his quote, "Today the U.S. has the highest economic growth rate, leading the world economy since the pandemic, the highest in the world." And exclamation point. He had that kind of yelling at the microphone moment there. Here's the facts. Last year, the economy grew by 2.1%. The prior year, it was 5.7%, like I said. But when you look at data published by the International Monetary Fund, you will find that we are behind multiple other countries. Like, for instance, let's just take 2022. I won't go into 21. 2022, last year, we had 2.1% economic growth. Armenia had 12.6%. The Bahamas had an 11% growth. Bangladesh, 7.1%. Croatia, 6.3%. Egypt, 6.6%. Iraq, where ISIS and current instability and government corruption is still rampant, 8.1%. When a war zone is doing better than you are, something ain't right. He cannot possibly stand there with a straight face and say these things. And I wonder, does he believe it, or is he just saying it because he knows he has to? Anyway, Columbia University School of Business finance professor Laura Veldkamp, this is all, by the way, in a story on townhall.com, dated yesterday. She says there's no way that Biden's claim is true if he was referring to percentages. She said if Biden was citing some unusual or obscure measure of growth, he could have explained that, but he didn't, and the White House didn't either when asked for comment. So here's the way the article concludes. Bidenomics is not working for the American people, despite what the White House and the president proclaim. It's too simple, y'all. Think about it. Are you better off right now than you were before? And numbers don't lie. We're not. There may be individual moments when things have gone well for people, but as a whole, as a culture, as an economy, we are not. Extra piece I've got here on the Washington Examiner. Washington Examiner's headline is Bidenomics Debunked. So help me with this, all right? Bidenomics, President Joe Biden tweeted out, is characterized, here's the quote, here's how he describes it. Bidenomics is growing the economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down. It's a vision where we make smart investments in America, educate and empower American workers, and promote competition to lower costs and help small businesses. What does that even mean? Does anybody even understand what it means to say You're growing the economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down. And, yesterday on the show, I think it was Jeff Poor that said during the Grand Council, when has it ever worked to say that you're going to grow it from the bottom up? If you're putting incentives in place for small businesses, they're not working right now. They're not. You're flooding the market with fake dollars, but we're really not seeing small businesses getting a hand up. In fact, if anything, it's been a rough several years for small businesses. He says it's an investment. It's a vision where we're making smart investments in America. No, that's called flooding the market with taxpayer dollars to try and pretend that what just happened was a spark in the economy. In a free market, the true spark in the economy is when the private sector gets engaged and does amazing things, not when the private sector goes, hey, government, if you'll give me a pile of money, I'll do a thing. That's different. Points out here in the article, for 26 months in a row, inflation has outpaced wage growth. Since Biden took office, real wages are down 5%, resulting in the average worker losing almost $5,000 in real wages, according to the House Budget Committee. Inflation that led to the decline in real wages is primarily the fault of the Federal Reserve, which has increased the money supply by 41% in the last 2 years. Helped along by congressional Democrats and even Republicans through several big dollar spending bills. They put multi-trillion-dollar packages out there, supported largely by the Democrat Party, but even some Republicans. And when they when they take a supply chain that is stymied, they take an economic sector that is not where it needs to be, and they take a manufacturing sector that can't get the goods it needs to manufacture, and then you flood the market with money, you wind up having more dollars than goods available, and you wind up with inflation, 40%, 40-year high inflation. So yeah, Bidenomics. This is going to be fun. I wonder if he's going to try to carry that moniker throughout the entire campaign. And I can't wait to see whether they're going to let him get away with not debating anybody, because any knucklehead running for dog catcher could get up there and make the claim that Bidenomics is a failure. Take me to a break, Boom. We'll do that right now. We'll come right back and do a little more on Bidenomics. You are welcome to text in or call in 833-687-4448. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right, making common sense a superpower. The text lines are going pretty good here. Let me see what we got over here. Chris from Athens. Bidenomics is the double secret probation in Animal House. Only the one who started it knows how it works. That's good. John from Decatur says Bidenomics equal meth head math. Brian from Huntsville. Bidenomics is thus named because it works for us, but because it works, not because it works for us, but because it works for Biden's. I get it. John from Huntsville says, here's a funny joke I came across. Says a genie came out of a lamp, told the liberal he could have any one wish. So the liberal said, I wish I was smarter. And the genie gladly granted his wish and turned him into a Republican. John from Huntsville, appreciate you. Teresa from Town Creek sent me a meme, and it's pretty good. It's like it's set up like a dictionary definition. Bidenomics, a noun. Bidenomics is about blind faith in government spending and regulations. It's an economic disaster where government causes decades-high inflation, high gas prices, lower paychecks, and crippling uncertainty that leaves Americans worse off. That's a pretty adequate description, definition. And then Raven from Russellville says, and I think he was commenting on some of the earlier stuff, says, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. That's my monologue, I guess. Thank you, Raven. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah, you want to text in? You're welcome to it, 833-687-4448. I got to say, too, Bidenomics, I mean, is it, I look at it and think, is this a little weird that he's decided to name it for himself?
Well, it's weird to us. To him, I bet he's like, "This is awesome."
Maybe so. It was on the teleprompter, so I read it.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, it's like, do you really want this named after you?
Well, and there's that, but then the other side of it too is the prideful side of, I'm going to name this thing for myself, so my name will be on it.
And forever.
I mean, Obama just kind of said, somebody asked him the question, and he goes, that's fine. If they want to call it that, I'll take it. I mean, that's what he did. He didn't go out there and go, I'd like to give you a speech about Obamacare. And I don't know that Reagan ever used the term Reaganomics for himself. If he did, I'd like to know. But Biden's out there giving a speech about Bidenomics. It's me. Look at me. I'm the president. See? It's Bidenomics. So piece I've got here that came from the Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal's hit or miss, but in economics, I look at when they list the actual numbers. So Bidenomics in one lesson, it says, President Biden is now embracing what we have long called Bidenomics as a badge of honor. Biden's approval rating on the economy is 38.3% in the latest Real Clear Politics average, and that's not great. So he gave the speech in Chicago, talking all about his Bidenomics, and then it points out that it's an ugly story about the impact of the worst inflation in 40 years and the standard of living. This is the inflation that Mr. Biden did so much to ignite with all of his spending. And it's a 3.16% decline in real earnings for the average worker across 29 months. So basically, because of inflation and wages not climbing to match inflation, it's as if someone's lost income. It's like you got a pay cut. And in essence, we've lost, across the board, the average worker is down 3% in pay. You may have gotten a 5% pay raise at the beginning of the year, but because of Biden's economy, your pay raise doesn't go as far as it would have. It's more like along the lines of you've lost 3%. But here's one that is probably the more galling of all of them when you look at the numbers. In fact, I even saw that Congressman Barry Moore tweeted this out earlier today too. Story from Fox News. The Biden administration's burdensome regulations have cost Americans about $10,000 per household, according to a new report which noted that the figure could skyrocket if President Biden is reelected in 2024 and serves another 4 years. Now, this is regulatory burdens. This is when the government does things that wind up costing you more money. It's everything from raising taxes to making it more difficult to do your job, or allowing certain things to happen that relate to your licensure, or establishing penalties, whatever the case may be. Since at the end of last year, according to the study, this was done by Casey Mulligan, a professor of economics at the University of Chicago, The Biden administration imposed new regulatory costs on American households and businesses at a pace surpassing that of the Obama administration during a comparable time period. Mulligan writes that the Biden administration has so far been adding regulatory costs at a rate of $617 billion per year with just rulemaking. That's wow. And when you take it all into account, it comes out to about the equivalent of $9,600 per household in terms of new expense that people are having to endure on the average. Folks, that Biden economy, it's not where it needs to be. The idea that he can be proud of it, I think what he's trying to do really is just grab the narrative and try to shape it himself, because and it's a heck of a thing when you can stand up there and say whatever you want and nobody questions it, but that's what's happening. And if you remember too, as he says he's going to run for president, they're also saying they're not going to allow debates for President Biden. Wow. All right, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We're right back with a batch of home fries.
Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. And like the dude just said, covering all of it, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 already. Inexplicably, we are at hour number 2. Did you speed the clock? You know, you and I were saying a while ago, it felt like the clock was running slow, and now all of a sudden we're in hour number 2.
Yeah, that is true. We were both like, man, it's going a little slow.
Are you
and now
messing
we're
with me?
You know, I like to turn back and push forward the time. Since
I don't know what's happening right now. We got a new texter who did not give us their name. What? Okay. I says, I wish that one day y'all would educate us on ESG scores.
I just wrote back. We have covered that multiple times. You can go back to listen to our podcast.
Yeah,
There's tons of them.
I'm thinking this person's not been listening to the show for a while. But anyway, yeah. Said they've listened to various conservative shows or ministries and sounds very bad for our country. But it's Mike in Tuscaloosa. And yeah, Mike, we cover that quite often. In fact, we just covered last week the fact that our state legislature passed an anti-ESG legislation. And you are right. ESG is basically social scoring. And it's not good for anybody, and it's putting the onus on corporations to do things they were never designed to do, and it's just causing all said and done. Mike, glad you're in the text line, and yeah, we have talked about it multiple times, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more. Jerry from Decatur, for a man who can get absolution from a priest, he can lie all he wants to, says Jerry from Decatur, talking about Biden. Jeff from Indiana, Bidenomics is great if your last name is Biden and you're getting funneled money from foreign sources because you're not hurting for certain. All right, you guys want to text in or call in, you are welcome to it. I am switching gears right now. I'm going to do a little bit of home fries, and don't forget, coming up at the bottom of the hour, we usually do Boomer and McQueen at 3:30, but no. We're going to be doing what we call Boomer and Lee from Huntsville today as McQueen has a proxy. But it's home fries time. Hit it. There you go. Things happening right around the house. Things happening right here in your backyard. Stuff that's happening around the home. We're going to cook up a batch of home fries. So this first one, I got to be honest with you. This story, I know what they're intending. The story was designed to show how government can get in the way. But there's 2 stories here in one. And it's by AL.com. And the sub-story for this is, from the reading of the article, is just some good parenting. That's what I'm saying. So, story that came out, what day is this? Came out 2 days ago on AL.com. The headline, how a child's lemonade stand led to a complaint from the Alabama Department of Labor. Now, I don't know about you, but I had a lemonade stand. Boomer, did you ever sell lemonade on the corner or anything?
Oh, absolutely.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you make some money at it?
I'm pretty sure I did. I had it in my piggy bank. It's probably still in there.
Yeah, so we definitely, yes. Next to my grandparents' house on Teal Drive in Huntsville, we had a lemonade stand more than once. But so here's the thing. The story reads this way, that in Hueytown, down yonder in Jefferson County area, in Hueytown, a young 8-year-old's business got the attention of the Alabama Department of Labor after his mom offered an apprenticeship. So here's the bottom line. Cameron Johnson is 8 years old. His mom, Crystal, decided that she wanted to teach him about the value of money and hard work. He wanted to go to Disney World, and she told him basically money doesn't grow on trees. Let me teach you, in her words, says, let me teach you how to earn $1 since you think that money grows on trees. So they put up a lemonade stand at a yard sale, and they put it on social media and advertised. Well, it took off. And so there's Cameron. Little Cameron's making some money. He's got a good lemonade stand. And so he went and did it at other events. They took their mobile lemonade stand and they sold lemonade. Anyway, it's gone so well, apparently, they're about to have Cam's Lemonade in stores all across Jefferson and Walker County in 10 flavors over the next few months. So first of all, capitalism works.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. And by the way, my lemonade stand never did anything like that.
No, never.
But she says, and Cam said, the kid, he says the lemonade stand was a way to have fun with his mom. And he says it taught him how to save money. Okay. This is parenting right here. Then Cam's Lemonade advertised they would do a one-day apprenticeship program for other kids to learn how this kind of thing works. And somebody reported them to the Alabama Department of Labor. Yes, that's
What?
Is your camera on? Because people need to see
No,
your face
it's
right
not.
now while they're doing this. But so yeah, they reported them to the Alabama Department of Labor for daring to have a lemonade stand with an apprentice.
How dare they?
It's
Come
the
on.
downfall of Western society.
Teach the kids how to do this. That's
Oh my
great.
gosh. According to Crystal, the mom says the idea was for a child anywhere between the ages of 6 and 10 to sign up to be a smiler and a greeter and to learn the ropes. She said she wanted interested kids to learn what it means to have a business and to see what they want to be when they grow up. She said, I came up with the idea just to help a couple of kids do the same thing I did with my son. I thought it'd be a good idea. They put it on Facebook. It resulted in an unidentified person reporting them to the Department of Labor. So here's what mom said. I'm taking longer on this story because this is just good. Mom went out there and said on Facebook, I was reported to the Department of Labor for hiring minors, in quotations. Some miserable soul thought it'd be a good idea to have it shut down. So with that being said, the child event that I was trying to have put together is being canceled. She said, it's disgusting, hateful, and downright sad for a person to find negative in what I was trying to accomplish. That person is no doubt reading this. You cannot stop what was destined to be. All you did was make me figure out another way. So anyway, a spokesperson, so AL.com called the Department of Labor and basically said, what gives? Spokesperson for the Department of Labor said it does not try to stop lemonade stands, but they said that she cannot have kids working in her for-profit business that are underage. So that's what they're saying. Now, okay, how about it was an educational opportunity?
Right.
How about it was for fun? How about it was,
It was allowing another parent also to just say, yeah, you go learn that. That's awesome. Then maybe we can do it too.
I'll tell you how she can do this. I'll tell you how she can skin that cat. The parents of the other child pay her $5 and we call it tuition and they have paid for the opportunity to learn something.
Ha!
At that point, I think she's okay. Just lawyer Phil speculating right there. It says this at the end, the spokesperson for the Department of Labor, this is an LLC with professional transportation and distribution. God. Kids at that age can volunteer for their church or other nonprofits, but a 6-year-old cannot work for a for-profit business. She is free to employ her child, but no other children under the age of 14. The business has faced no penalties and was not threatened with any penalties. So they're trying to say, we're not trying to assess penalties. We just told her to stop. I still look at it and think, what a crock of crap.
Oh.
I mean,
So what if the parent wanted to do it with them? So they hire the parent to come, and then it's bring your kid to work day.
bam.
There it is.
Okay, I like it. Anyway, I see two stories there. One is big government, certainly. That's a big government. Right here in Alabama. What a shame. But the other is, I like that mom's parenting. And apparently, they got it going on because they're going to be in stores all over Jefferson and Walker counties.
I like it.
That's
I need to
sweet.
get me some of that lemonade.
All right. Hey, I got another story here. Switching gears. We're still doing some home fries, all right? We got, are you cooking them up again? Oh, well, thank you. just get them frying. Little home fries. So the story came out of AL.com also. And the headline caught my attention. Tuscaloosa enacts a moratorium on new bars due to a police shortage. Huh. Yes, you heard me right. Boomer squinching his face like, make this make sense for me. It says a shortage of Tuscaloosa police officers prompted the city council, this story was dated yesterday, this past Tuesday, to impose a moratorium on new bars and gastropubs. Apparently a gastropub is a bar that serves food, or a food place that has a bar, one or the other. The official resolution approved on a 5-2 vote suspends the approval of conditional use applications for bar taverns and gastropubs. The moratorium could be expanded. Councilor Lee Busby said before the vote, quote, it gives us a chance to take an operational pause, reassess what we're capable of policing and providing safety. I got a question. Where do they think the revenue comes from to hire more police officers? I'm just saying, where exactly do they get revenue? They get it from businesses, especially those that do sales because local sales tax helps feed the budget for City Hall, right? Well, so here's the story on the back page of this article. Tuscaloosa Police Department is short right now. They are saying that they have a proposed 289 officers. They only have 256. So they're only short, 33 officers? 34? 33. Says Tuscaloosa Police Department is also competing with the University of Alabama's separate police department. So UAPD pays a starting salary of $65,000, whereas TPD, Tuscaloosa PD, pays a starting salary of $51,000. So you work on campus, you're automatically making $14,000 more on day one. Tuscaloosa offers a sign-on bonus of $5,000, but the UAPD offers a sign-on bonus of $7,500. And then Tuscaloosa PD does allow for a take-home car program. So what's happening is Tuscaloosa can't get officers because they can't pay them enough, and they're competing with the campus police force, which is paying a whole lot more. And people want to work at the campus police force so they can work the games and do all those kind of things too. And then on top of that, though, they're saying they're not going to approve any more licenses for new bars and restaurants. But that's where you get revenue to
Exactly.
hire more
That
police
doesn't make
officers.
sense.
No, that's called cutting off your nose to spite your face. That's called making an excuse, in my opinion. Anyway, I just found that story to be fascinating as we cook up some home fries. Right now, we're going to a break, so let's do that real quick. We'll take the break. We'll come right back. I got some more. We had Tommy Tuberville on the show the other day. Did you see his tweet fest back and forth with President Biden? That was a fun one. We'll talk about that. And then what about that whitewater park down in Montgomery that got like $5 million in taxpayer money? Oh, they're being sued. I'll tell you why. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right. Hey, listen, coming up here at the bottom of the hour, we're going to go to, we usually call it Boomer and McQueen, but the lovely McQueen is out of town. And she's a former college athlete. So the bottom line is she is helping coach young athletes for the next couple of weeks on these what do you call them, like seminars or day camps or whatever?
Yeah, they're just like it's just like a few day camp.
But it falls right in the middle of the Boomer McQueen time.
It does. She can't even get out to call.
So, daggum. Anyway, but yeah, she's good at that, and so we're going to have to move on. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have another guest host, Boomer and Lee from Huntsville.
I like it.
It's going to be good.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, Lee's always good when she calls in. Several texts here on the line. Mike T. from Tuscaloosa. He's our new texter. He just says, appreciate it. Yes, sir. We're going to get on that. JT from Lacey Springs. Lemonade. Department of Labor. Jackassery. I think that is absolutely. There you go. Thank you, JT, for reminding us. Mike from Athens says, can't the kids work for free? That's what I would thought, but apparently that's slave labor. I don't know. Just for the experience, he asks. Then he says, by the way, and Campus PD gets a free school tuition. Well, there's a thing. I didn't realize that, but you know what? I've got a friend of mine that works at another Campus PD, and I believe that's correct. I think it's very common for that to be a tuition waiver. Yeah, all right, good point. Skip from Tony says, great show as always, Phil. My 2 cents, safety is more often than most will admit the battle cry among despots and socialists alike. Man, that's like, there's another like T-shirt right there. Thank you, Skip. Appreciate you. Hey, did you see, by the way, we're doing a batch of home fries here, and did you see the Twitter feud? Boomer, you don't do Twitter a whole lot, do you?
No.
You have a Twitter account with like 3 followers.
I do. I have another one that I just never get on that. I barely get on the other social media stuff, and I probably should do better with all these other things.
You could have posted your bowl of Frosted Flakes last night if you had.
See, I could have done that.
But, okay, so I don't know if you saw this then. There was a Twitter. So the other day, Tommy Tuberville was in the state, right? He was on the phone. He called us on the show here for a while. Senator Tuberville was making the rounds, and he was quoted as having said, what a great thing that we're going to be able to see money coming to the state of Alabama to help put broadband out into all the rural areas of our state. Mm-hmm. And then apparently thinking it was a swipe at him because he had voted against the actual infrastructure bill that had broadband in it. He voted against it because of all the pork that was in it. He did not like broadband. Right. There were 50 other things in there that were objectionable.
Trying to squeeze it in.
Yeah, they do that. They put these omnibus bills together to try to get people to, look, you can't vote against it because there's that one thing. Yeah, but there's 20 others. Anyway, so Tuberville put a tweet out that said, basically, yay for Alabama, money for broadband. The president's personal Twitter account, probably run by somebody else, but thinking they had it going on, tweeted back and said, we'll be glad to see you at the groundbreaking, which was a swipe. We'll be glad to see you at the groundbreaking. To which Tuberville did not even hesitate and tweeted back, you mean the groundbreaking for Space Command?
That's awesome.
That was like an epic slow burn. I mean, whoever's on the other side, you can just see they're just steaming. They're like, says the president. This is a story on Yellowhammer. The president's Twitter account has not yet responded to Tuberville's question. Given the nature of the controversy, the administration wants to keep quiet. He is not likely to. So, good for you, Coach. Speaking of which, though, story on Yellowhammer also. The state will actually receive $1.4 billion. That's a lot of money. $1.4 billion to boost ongoing efforts to expand broadband access to unserved areas, Governor Kay Ivey announced. So yeah, and I'm not for pork. I'm really not. And I have to question to some degree why it's taking so long to get broadband rolled out. But I do recognize how critical it is. And I say that because look what happened during COVID. They shut down schools. They sent kids home. They said, log in, we'll give you your homework online. So many kids did not have access. We had rural school districts that were doing things like parking a school bus with a Wi-Fi hotspot in it in a Walmart parking lot so kids could sit in mom's minivan and do their homework. It was a knucklehead idea to shut down schools the way they did. But what they basically did was they showed the world how important it is that we have internet access. If they're going to make that the wave of the future, we got to have access to it. So anyway, story right now, Yellowhammer, $1.4 billion coming to the state of Alabama. The governor's comment, my priorities for Alabama to gain full ability to be connected to high-speed internet. We have taken several significant strides towards this goal. Today's announcement is a tremendous boost. So I ain't for the pork spending, but here it comes, and I do believe we need to have that broadband capability sooner than later. Last couple things I got. Let me skip this one. We've talked about that one a bit, so let me grab this before we run out of time. Remember that Whitewater Park down in Montgomery? The one that wanted to, like $20 million in taxpayer funds to help it, even though it's a private sector enterprise? Yeah, they're being sued by one of their contractors. Why are they being sued, Phil? Well, they're being sued because they basically are being alleged to have racist tendencies in the hiring of their subs. Go figure. All I know is that's enough home fries for now. We're going to come right back with Boomer and Lee from Huntsville. You guys stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. I'm talking about Alabama. And I mean, this show sends its signal way on down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi. Thrown in just for good measure. Hey, this is that part of the week. This is my favorite segment. So Boomer McQueen is what we do every Thursday at 3:30. Except that the lovely McQueen has a calling to coach kids right now, and she's at a day camp for, I guess, next week too, right?
In a couple weeks. So she gets next week off.
That's a lot of Frosted Flakes for you to eat, though, bud.
That is.
So last week we had Butters. It was Boomer and Butters. This week we needed a new proxy. So we were proud to reach out to find somebody who's even guest hosted this show before. Say hello to Lee from Huntsville. Lee, how are you doing today?
I am great. I'm excited for the inaugural Boomer and Lee.
There you go, Boomer and Lee. Well, that means we got to play the whoop whoops. So hit
That's
those
right.
whoop whoops. There you go. All right, Lee. You know the rules, right? I got questions. I ask questions, and you guys just give me your unvarnished opinions and just wax poetic on it. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Here's the deal. First question. So, I mean, the left, I look around and think the left creates fake women, fake meat, fake economics, fake environmental disasters. Here's my question, rhetorically and reality. Why are they so intent on creating new realities all the time? Lee, you want to go first?
Sure. I think, like everything, Scripture can explain a lot. I think back to Romans. If you even go back to Romans 1:20, all the way through 27 explains a lot of this. But if you just hone in on 25, Romans 1:25, because by choice they exchanged the truth of God for a lie, and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. The truth of God for a lie. They've exchanged it in all of these things. And I think that really spoke to me as why we've got so much fakery going on. Fake women, fake food, fake everything, because they want to exchange that truth for a lie.
Boomer, she just quoted Scripture, and I don't know what you got, but you're going to have a hard time. So.
Well, I'm not going to beat that. What I'm going to say is, I think we've said it before, and I know your lovely wife has said it as well. They want control.
Oh yeah.
And the way I look at it is they're pushing all of this on us, and again, it looks like we're a frog in a boiling pot. So I think the reason they're pushing all of this nonsense on us and all these things is they're pushing so much on us so that they can get away with a separate amount at the very end.
Oh, so ask for a lot, take what you can get. But
exactly.
You're exerting control by doing it.
And right now they're seeing how much they can get away with.
Well, I agree, and I think that goes back to what Lee said. I mean,
Yep.
they're absolutely substituting the truth of God for a lie, and the purpose behind that, you're saying, is so they can exert more control.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
I mean, I think that's their end game is they want the control, and so they're just pushing all this fake nonsense on us, and then seeing how much they can get away with, and then eventually just take control over.
I'm buying that. Y'all are on it. What'd you go about to say, Lee? You got something else?
I was going to say it's much easier, or it's much more difficult to have someone believe I've been lied to. I know everyone's heard this quote. Than for them to believe a lie than for them to believe they were lied to. So it's much easier for them to believe a lie.
Wow.
And so when you're talking about, and plus it's easier to control, say, thought, speech. I mean, at this point we have thought crime. In Western countries, we literally have thought crime. And if they can control us down to our very thoughts and actions, such as using, control through means like legal and or social control, where they can perhaps control your money, your ability to travel, your ability to move about, who you associate with, all of these things via social control. It's much easier to do that if they can convince you to believe the lie. And the lie is that you're worshiping what's created, not the creator.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I think too, there's a deep dissatisfaction. Liberals always seem to have a victim mentality. I said that in my monologue earlier, and I think there's a deep dissatisfaction with existing realities, so much so that they want to conjure up something new, something fake, and claim that that's a better way, and it gives them a chance to avoid the truth that they would just don't want to face. What?
And I also think that how many people out there take one news source, if that's from their phone or some article they read on, on a certain website or a newspaper, they read those articles and they believe what is in there verbatim. They don't go dig for themselves and try to figure out the actual truth. They're like, oh, this is what we need to believe now. All these fake people this is what we're doing. Okay, let's do it.
There's 72 genders.
Yeah. They're like, oh, I guess they got it wrong the first time. But a lot of people are just quickly brainwashed is what I believe.
Yep, that's true too. That's true too. All right. Golly. This is good.
I like this.
This is like deep. All right. Next question. I'm thinking through, like the Supreme Court, I didn't even talk about it yet, but Supreme Court had a major decision today. Supreme Court's been really touching on some hot topics lately. But one of them is this, the Supreme Court came out recently and basically ruled that Alabama's going to have to redraw all of its congressional district lines. So the legislature is about to convene in special session. They're reviewing all kinds of proposed maps. For those inside of the political world, this is really big. This is upheaval. But I got to ask you guys, do y'all think that the average citizen in Alabama even knows this is happening or even cares for that matter? Is it a nothing burger to them? Or is it like, yeah, that's a big, hairy deal? What, you got something, Boomer? You're already on this one. Okay.
I'm going to go jump on this. Just completely honest, if I wouldn't have heard it here, I would have no clue. I mean, it's just being honest. I mean, just coming from where I was before, I didn't keep up with anything. And I happened, was it yesterday we talked about it and the day before.
Yeah.
So I was just with a group of people. I said, hey, did y'all know about this? And they said, no. What does this even mean? So if it was me a year ago, before I even started here, I probably would have no clue. And honestly, if someone wouldn't tell me exactly what it meant, would I care about it right now? I probably wouldn't.
But you were not a conservative back
Correct.
then. And you also you voted conservative.
Absolutely.
And you voted regularly and you paid attention, generally speaking.
Yes.
But you're saying that you don't think you would have ever grabbed hold of the story.
I probably would have never grabbed hold of it.
All right, Lee. So you give us your thoughts, but then I want to hear what you think other people around you. Do they even see this? Is this happening in their minds? What's the deal?
No, for the most part, the public is shockingly uninformed, especially for something like this. They don't understand the dominoes, right? So this redistricting can eventually mean 2 Democrat representatives out of 8 for the state of Alabama, which increases, instead of 7, which we have now, we have 7 out of 8, and this is possibility of making it 6 out of 8, which lends 1 more Democrat to the House of Representatives. Which you do that in enough states, that can tip the balance of power that we just continuously have right now, which means they're back to just ramming garbage down our throats, like, impeaching the former president 2 times over nothing. So, yes, it matters, and it matters a lot. But they know, as a whole, I think for the political class and for people who, pay attention, news people, political people, yes, it's very important. But everybody else, no, I don't think so.
I think y'all are right. It should be a story. I mean, that's why I talk about it, because I think it is a big deal. And like you just said, Lee, I mean, the reality is the margins are so slim right now up there in D.C. in terms of the Republican majority in the House. All the ability to do these investigations that we're doing right now, all the ability to look at potential impeachments of people like Mayorkas and others, all the ability to subpoena documents from the FBI related to Hunter Biden, every bit of that is contingent upon having a majority. And if we wind up seeing just the slimmest of majorities harmed by having to redraw the lines, and lo and behold, they do get another Democrat elected to Congress because of it. We potentially lose our grip on the ability to get something done.
Also,
go ahead.
Think about the investigations right now. Would we, if this had happened and they allowed 22 to go ahead, right? But had they not, and we had to vote based on maps back then, would we even know about Hunter's text, the WhatsApp text, which literally at this point we have anything but a video of him and his dad sitting there going, yeah, tell him that. I mean, literally, we have everything possible to show that there is absolute, selling of influence by Hunter with the approval of his father, and yet we would have known nothing about this.
That's right. It's all because we gained the slimmest of majorities to give us a chance to chair committees to make this happen. And you're right. But back to the question too. I think both you new congressmen. I'm not even sure who my congressman is now, and I'm afraid that's too often the fact that it goes right on by. Yeah. One more minute.
I have actually a question with it as well.
Right.
Talking about those lines, would this be a trickle effect for other states as well? Are they watching?
Oh, there's already the decision that came down that impacts us is actually impacting Louisiana.
Okay.
And there's another one, maybe Texas and North Carolina. I think all of them were in a position where they were on pause, waiting to see what our decision was going to be. And now they're all faced with having to redraw their lines. So, yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. All right, boom shakalaka. Let's take a break right now. Lee, you're doing great sitting in for the lovely McQueen. We appreciate you being with us today. We're doing the Boomer McQueen segment, but it's Boomer and Lee today. And y'all stay tuned. We flip the script right after this. I have no idea what they're going to ask me, but this is where they get to ask me any question. And I can always refrain from answering if I have to. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right, making common sense a superpower. So this is a part of the Boomer and McQueen segment, which is briefly renamed as the Boomer and Lee from Huntsville segment, where we flip the script and y'all ask me a question. So I don't know what's coming. Lee, you got a question for me? What you got?
I do. I'm curious about the redistricting, since I think you would know much more about that than most people. Could there be any unintended consequences? And also, I find it interesting that they assume that when they do these two districts, that black people will be elected, as if they wouldn't elect anyone else, nor would white people elect anyone else. I find that thought process strange.
I do too. Yeah. So unintended consequences. I mean, in general, you mean like what kind of things could happen that? I'm looking at one of the things that's being talked about right now is that down in South Alabama, congressional districts number 1 and 2, which are currently held by Congressman Jerry Carl of Mobile, Baldwin County area, and Congressman Barry Moore from Coffee County, that there's some of the proposed maps have them both drawn into the same district. If that's the case, we have 2 sitting Republican congressmen who, if they want to both be reelected, may have to run against each other. There's one. And I would guess I would have to classify that though as an intended consequence because
right.
I'm thinking they're probably going to try and do something like that just to make it more difficult for an incumbent to be able to run against who the Democrats want to put up in whatever the new district lines are. But then to your point, I agree. I said the same thing. There is a very cavalier sort of sense of entitlement when it comes to the black vote. Democrats believe it's theirs. You remember Biden in the campaign, if you ain't voting for me, you ain't black. I mean, what a stupid, silly, entitled thing to say, and yet they get away with it. And yes, if you look at the demographics on the polling scales, the exit polls tend to show that the black vote more often than not does go Democrat, but it has been waning in recent years. More and more, we're seeing folks not voting straight party like that. They're starting to think on their own. So, that's what I'm thinking. That's where I'm at.
I definitely think it's changing. It may be slowly, but I definitely think it's changing. Hispanic vote as well. They're trying to get a lot of that. A lot of what Democrats represent, being majority Catholic, that come here. They're not down with a lot of that.
Yeah, they're scared to death of the Hispanic vote, especially in Florida. That's why Soros bought up 18 conservative Hispanic radio stations trying to change the narrative down in South Florida. But yeah, here in Alabama, even more and more people are beginning to realize, wait a minute, under Trump, the economy was better. More black folks had good jobs, and it's not worked out that way under Biden. So we'll see. That's what I'm thinking right now. Boom shakalaka, you got a question for me?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I was just going to say, do you think the DNC is going to pour money into that race, the new seat?
Boomer, Lee comes on the show and just takes over is what I see. That's what I'm.
That's all right. I mean, McQueen does too, so I'm used to it. It's all good. It's okay.
You said. Do I think the DNC, the Democrats, are going to pour money into that race? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I think they're going to be like socking money into it, and I bet they're already right now trying to hunt down the right candidate to run for office. I guarantee you, there's some state legislators, there's some potential mayors. You keep an eye on where they draw those lines, but I could see Mayor Reed, the mayor of Montgomery, if he's drawn into that new district, thinking that he can run. Yeah, we'll see. But I do believe that the Democrats are going to pour a lot of money into it once they figure out who their candidate is going to be. More to come on it, though. What's your question there, Boom Shakalaka?
All right, I'm going to go with the war in Ukraine with Putin. All right, so with that group, the Wagner group, taking off up to Russia, getting in within 120 miles or something. Oh, that's kind of just nuts on that end. But what is Russia going to do on their end? I mean, they just lost a lot of troops.
Oh, with the Wagners,
yeah, with the Wagners. I mean, Ukraine there, we don't know who's actually winning. They say Russia's actually losing now, but I don't know. What is Russia going to do?
I think, first of all, Russia owns more territory right now than it did before the war started. So it's not like Ukraine has but Ukraine has certainly whacked them. I mean, this has been a David and Goliath story, right?
Yes.
But that being said, we're also hearing right now that the counteroffensive is going slower than expected. but it's still going more in Ukraine's favor. And then Wagner did what it did. And Wagner has something in the neighborhood of 50,000 total troops. And they just got emasculated. So the notion that on the battlefield, Russia just lost 50,000 potential troops, what we're hearing right now is that Putin's trying to offer them contracts to join the Russian army, because that's what they do. They have conscripts and contractees. You're a conscript when you do your mandatory 2 years of service. And after that, you can choose to stay in under contract. Well, they're trying to get all these Wagner folks, at least the ones who didn't, stage the coup. They're trying to get them signed up under contract. There's also, by the way, right now, we're watching, and there's several key Russian generals, to include, I think, Shoigu, who is their defense minister. They're missing. And there is some belief that they maybe as part of a purge by Putin of anyone he believes might have been sympathetic to Wagner. And so the purge may be underway for all we know. It's you're never going to get sideways with Putin, because you're going to be hiring a soup tester thereafter.
Yeah.
But all right, hey Lee, you did a great job. Thank you so much for standing in for the lovely McQueen today. We appreciate you.
I enjoyed it.
Well, we enjoyed it. We enjoy you. Thanks for being a part of our audience, and we'll have you back again soon. All right.
Will do.
All right.
Thanks, Lee.
That was good.
That was awesome.
That was good. All right. And I think she held her own there too. Of course, we didn't expect anything less.
Exactly.
Of course, she didn't run roughshod of you like McQueen does. All right, listen, we're coming right back with former Congressman Mo Brooks calling in. You guys stay tuned. We'll be right back. Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams live here in the Rightside studios, man. We got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. We cover all of it. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. All right, well, somebody who's been a friend of the show many times in the past, and I think it's been too long since we've had him on, our former Congressman Mo Brooks, who served the 5th District of the state of Alabama for a number of years. He is on the line for us right now. Congressman, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Just got through swimming over in Lake Gunnersville. Beautiful day at the lake. When you got this kind of heat, that water feels good.
Yeah, it does. In fact, I think Boomer and I are sitting here kind of jealous right now, just to be honest.
And you ought to be.
Hey, Congressman, let me ask you something. So you spent time in the state legislature, I know. You've spent time in local office, and you've also served, obviously, in Congress. And I'm sure you've seen redistricting over the years. And right now, we've got this court ruling that is basically sending our state legislature back to the drawing board. They're going to have a special session coming up here in about 2 or 3 weeks. Your thoughts on where this is headed, and what do you think is going to happen with the drawing of the lines?
Well, first, the United States Supreme Court seems to have a multiple personality disorder. On one day, they rule that you must take into account race when determining congressional districts that in turn determine the laws of the land.
Yeah.
On the other hand, just a few days later, they say you cannot take into account race because that's racism when you're trying to determine who gets to go to which college and under what terms and conditions.
It defies
Those
logic.
Two decisions seem to it's crazy. It's a multiple personality disorder. But in any event, that's the Supreme Court. What's going to happen? I have looked at this for many years, and this is not the first time that the possibility of being forced to draw 2 Democrat districts has come into play. And I don't know of any way you can draw 2 districts without taking a bunch of Democrat voters out of Mobile County, which in turn forces Jerry Carl to the east into the Wiregrass where Barry Moore lives. I mean, you got to have a certain population. Jerry Carl's district cannot go west. That's Mississippi. It cannot go south because that's the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
Cannot go north because that's the very district that is going to be the new Democrat district that they're trying to create. He can't go due east because that's Florida, so he has to go through this little wedge to the east into the Wiregrass where Barry Moore lives, and that's a substantial population that Jerry Carl's district has to pick up. And so, bingo, you've got an incumbent versus incumbent race, which you have to have someplace if you're going to have 2 different Democrat districts, none of which are occupied by an incumbent Republican.
Let me ask you something, just as an aside on that. I believe that the law does not require you to live in the congressional district you're running for. Is that true?
That is correct. That is not a requirement of the United States Constitution.
Wow.
So as long as you're a resident of the state, you can run anywhere you want in the state, and it's happened on occasion. Normally, not with very good results for the candidate who's done it, but occasionally they've even won.
Well, I mean, in this case, it's going to be weird. So we may wind up having 2 sitting incumbent Republican congressmen both running for the same district because their lines got drawn together.
Highly, highly probable unless somebody retires.
Well, so it's what are the odds of that? Do you think either Barry or Jerry are gonna say I'm throwing in the towel?
I don't see any of our 6 Republican incumbents going the retirement route. No signals to indicate that. No Senate seat to run for in 2024. So I think we're down to Jerry Carl versus Barry Moore. But maybe somebody can be creative and come up with something we could not foresee.
Well, and then there's any number of things that can happen, and then there's always a chance it could be challenged again. But so I guess we'll wait to see on that. You know what's going to be an interesting dynamic too. Just talking politics with you for a second, if you don't mind, is
go ahead.
In the last go around when Jerry Carl won against Bill Hightower, he made the race less about him against Hightower, more about him against Club for Growth, which was supporting Hightower's race. Club for Growth being a very conservative organization. You're very familiar with them. And then Barry Moore, on the other hand, is in the same district, potentially coming up with Carl. Well, he was a Club for Growth guy who won in his district with their support. And so you have to wonder, is this going to be a battle against Club for Growth if the two of them are going head to head?
I would expect that Club for Growth would participate on behalf of Barry Moore if there is a reasonable prospect of Barry Moore being competitive. And I don't know of any reason why it wouldn't be competitive. But Barry Moore is a House Freedom Caucus guy.
Yeah.
He is clearly one who puts America first. He's willing to sacrifice himself if it means doing the right thing for our country. And Jerry Carl is clearly of a different mindset. He's from the more liberal establishment wing of the Republican Party. So you'll have a classic matchup of the country club, more liberal establishment wing, whatever you want to call them. Some people call them rhinos, that wing of the party, versus what is clearly a conservative who has fought hard on deficit and debt, who's fought hard for our national security, who has fought hard against border security flaws that the establishment wing of our party loves to exploit on behalf of their Chamber of Commerce donors. So that's going to be the battle.
Wow. Well, that's going to be a battle royal. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing how this pans out. I guess we'll know for certain coming up here in about, the 21st, I think their deadline, they have to have the maps approved, is the 21st of July. And then...
less than a month.
Well, it's going to be enough. Now, so you've done this before, too. I mean, I had to sit through redistricting legislative sessions because we had to redraw what we did in 2011. We had to redraw them again a few years later after the challenge. So I have seen this. I've seen the filibusters. I've seen I've been there for the votes. I've had to pull the cloture petition being on the Rules Committee. I'm sure you have as well. Your thoughts on the process?
Well, it's an interesting, very tense process because political lives are at stake. And almost always there is somebody who gets the short end of the stick just because the demographics or because of the population growth in one part of the state versus another. I've been involved in 2 legislative redistrictings, 1 or 2 county commission, 2 congressional, and it ain't pretty. It really isn't. And that's why the courts ought to stay out of it. And for a while there, I thought they were going to stay out of it and abide by the constitutional provision that says that state legislatures are in charge of it.
Yeah.
But once again, the courts have decided to reverse themselves and start intervening more actively in what is a purely political process, very little legal issues involved in it.
Well, you're right. And I think that really caught everybody off guard because my recollection was when the oral arguments had concluded, the sense was that the ruling was going to wind up coming back in Alabama's favor as opposed to the plaintiff's favor. And then lo and behold, we got the opinion handed down, and that wasn't it. Now we're back to the drawing board.
Well, it might put a Nancy Pelosi lookalike in as our next Speaker of the House. So that's how important this thing is. It's not only us. It's also perhaps North Carolina. It is also, in high probability, Louisiana.
Yep.
And those are the 3 states that we know about where the Supreme Court or appellate courts have intervened based on the Supreme Court decision.
Well, which puts the entire slim majority that we currently hold at risk if the lines are drawn in such a way in those multiple states, correct?
Yeah, if you have to draw lines that elect Democrats, which is basically what the Supreme Court is saying, although they're using skin pigmentation as the criteria by which you determine that, then these rulings have probably cost Republicans 2 to 4 seats just in those 3 states, and who knows where it's going to impact elsewhere. And just as an aside, they don't ever rule in favor of Republicans. You don't see this coming up in California where they've been gerrymandered to just about exterminate the Republican Party, or in New York State where they've done tremendous damage, or Illinois. The courts only intervene when it's the Republicans who are making political gains because of the way legislatures have redistricted. So it's definitely a denial of equal protection.
Well, all right. I'll tell you what, Congressman, I think we covered that one. If you don't mind, we're going to take a break. Can you hang on during the break? I want to come back and talk to you. Great. I want to come back and talk to you after this break. You just went through something that I watched and thought, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen. State school board member Wayne Reynolds decided to file an ethics charge against you, and we got that handled here recently, apparently. So if you don't mind, we'll talk to you about that when we get back from the break. All right, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We're with former Congressman Mo Brooks. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, we're going right back to the phones now with our former Congressman Mo Brooks, who is enjoying a day on the lake and taking time to be with us anyway. Hey, Congressman, let me ask you something. So the story broke a few weeks ago that state school board member Wayne Reynolds took issue with your comments at one day in an interview and decided he was going to file an ethics complaint because as a voter for Katie Britt, he felt like you had maligned his character or I don't know what. And daggum. Anyway, this had to go before a review committee of the state Republican Party. What the heck?
Well, it was an effort to suppress freedom of speech, particularly speech that he disagreed with. And I don't mind him disagreeing with my comments. Everybody has a right
Sure.
to do that. But to accuse me of unethical conduct was way beyond the pale. And fortunately, the Alabama Republican Party's ethics committee just kind of slapped him around a little bit and rejected his complaint outright.
Well, and I mean, it was a little thin anyway. I mean, it's about anorexic in terms of having any body to it. But I guess he was making the complaint to the ethics committee for the party because you're now in a position of state party leadership, correct?
That is correct. Apparently, personally, I think that the reason he was doing it is because he wanted to assassinate my reputation. And this was a vehicle by which he could do it. If he just had a news conference say, hey, I disagree with Mo Brooks' comments on such and such, that doesn't get much media coverage. But if you suddenly say that someone has violated ethical rules of conduct and they're going to get hammered by some ethical committee or board, that gets media attention because it's salacious. Now, I've got a beef with the way all this stuff works, because I've been through about 40 of these things, probably a little bit more than 40 now, since I've been elected to the United States Congress. And these ethics committees and these ethics rules and these ethics bodies that are supposed to promote ethics, political foes have figured out that it's a great place to go and use as a political weapon regardless of the merits of your complaint. And so I've had complaints before the U.S. Congress, the House of Representatives, complaints before the body as a whole, or before the House Ethics Committee, before the Alabama Bar Association. Even when I'm not a practicing lawyer, I'm a United States Congressman. Eric Swalwell filed what was in effect an ethics complaint in a lawsuit in federal court in Washington, D.C., and every single one of them has been dismissed. But the goal was to get adverse publicity for somebody, some public official, and so the goal was achieved, even though they lost every single case.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an abuse of a system that is designed for the right reasons and used for the wrong reason too often. You're absolutely right. And I look at this whole thing though, and I think, he had to. I know Wayne a little bit. He's been on the show in the past before. I've had to take issue with some of his comments on other things in the past. But I cannot believe that he looked at an interview you did in which he was not even named and decided to name himself as a complainant on something you said that he believed in some way impugned him as a mere voter, as if he had been influenced by China.
It also did not mention Katie Britt.
That's true, too. You're right.
That's the thing. He was saying, hey, this insulted Katie Britt. And I'm going, wait a second. I didn't mention Katie Britt, and just FYI, I talked about me being the target of the Communist Chinese, and I'm not the only one, I should emphasize. There are others who have been targeted, pro or con. And by the way, not having mentioned any of my opponents, there were 8 of them. So if I was in my head thinking about one of them, well, which one of the 8? So, well, it was bizarre. It was a bizarre world, and my admonishment to Wayne Reynolds was, hey, you're on the government payroll. Our government-run school system needs a lot of help, needs a lot of innovation. Please spend your time on that. That's what we're paying you to do.
There you go. I agree. I did see, speaking of ethics, and this is going to be the state ethics board, that Senator Orr, Arthur Orr, who I know you know, Senator Orr is proposing legislation that would say you cannot have an anonymous complainant against you before the state ethics committee, that you have to be allowed to confront your accusers. Some folks say it has a chilling effect. I would tend to think, though, that it also makes sure that you can't have these spurious anonymous complaints becoming a weapon.
Well, it's embodied in the United States Constitution that you have the right to confront your accusers. So I'm glad that author Orr is trying to preserve a constitutional right. Now, granted, it's normally in a criminal setting, but still, you can't have these clandestine, secret attack efforts on people and not give people at least the right to know who it is that's attacking you, so that if there is a hidden agenda, if there is a bad motivation, you can explain that to the decision makers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Congressman, we appreciate your time, especially knowing that you've been out swimming in the lake and you took time away from that to give us a call. But we'll have you back on again sometime soon, all right?
I look forward to it. You have a blessed day.
All right. Thank you, sir. You too. That's former Congressman Mo Brooks, who is still in a position, by the way, of leadership within the state party. I believe he's the district rep now for that district, which I believe is the 5th district in the state. It's interesting to me how much of what we're talking about right now he's been through. And so I thought it'd be worthwhile, and it was, to get the former congressman, the former state legislator, the former county commissioner on the air to talk about having gone through redistricting. What does he see happening? And he's right. And he said it. It's going to wind up probably being handed back to everybody in the state to have a new map that's going to take 2 of our members of the Republican delegation to the U.S. Congress and pit them against each other in a race. And you watch. It's going to be a classic example of the far more conservative of the two being Barry Moore, who's supported by Club for Growth and has the Wiregrass as his hometown, basically. That's his home turf. And it's going to be interesting to see how Jerry Carl's district lines get drawn. Does he have to run with more support from the Wiregrass that he has to gain? Is he going to be less conservative branded as such? I believe he would. And then at the same time, how much strength does Baldwin County bring into it? Because they're a very highly populated county. It's going to be wild, y'all. In fact, I will just tell you this: for those of y'all that are political junkies, what we're about to see is the Wild West. This is going to be the OK Corral of political machinations. You guys stay tuned. All right, listen, we're going to go on, take a break, come right back, and jump on in and see what kind of text messages we got, and dive into Dipper number 3, and I'm calling it Fake World. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. That'd be Alabama. I'm talking about this show goes way on down south of Birmingham and way up north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, all the way back over to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and Mississippi. Thrown in just for good measure. Hey, you like how I said that slow that time, Boom?
You changed it up.
I just kind of roll with it there for a minute. Hey, I got to tell you guys before we go any further, ZLA Solutions, you hear their ads playing all the time on our show. They've been with us since the show began almost exactly 2 years ago, and they are epic good at what they do. I know these folks personally. I talk to them quite often. And yeah, ZLA Solutions, their website is zlausa.com. They do all kinds of things to help businesses streamline their operations, to do their logistics, their warehousing. But one of their things that they are most, known for, their bread and butter, if you will, is staffing. If you need people, they can help you with that. They can do the recruiting, the background checks, the drug testing, all of it. They will find you the folks that you need. And they're putting people in jobs together left and right. And they've got big name employer groups they work with all over the northern part of the state and beyond, really. So yeah, check them out. Their website, zlausa.com. That's ZLA Solutions at zlausa.com. And do me a favor, when you do, tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio. All right, I'm in number 3 of the Triple Dipper. How did this happen, Boomer? I'm going to get all 3 dippers.
All 3.
Plus a Boomer and Lee segment, plus a call from the congressman for a full half hour, and I'm still getting all 3 dippers done.
Man, there you go. I'm proud. And I know John from Huntsville's proud too.
All right.
Good day.
It's a good day. It's a good day. All right. So, hey, listen, dipper number 3 here. I'm calling it Fake World. I kind of had this in my questioning earlier for Boomer and Lee, is that liberals have a tendency to just make crap up. They just do. And not like a little bit. I mean, like, hey, why don't we create, I don't know, fake genders? Or here's an idea. How about we change the English language and make fake pronoun usage? Or here's another idea. Hey, let's create fake systemic racism. Or how about another one? Let's make fake meat. What? What is the need that they have to reinvent reality? I saw a piece, Tucker Carlson had a great piece on the transgender movement, and he said they have made themselves God. In their minds, they have made themselves God. They can create those things that only God could create. They have made themselves in the image of their God, and so they are creating life where life did not exist before. I think he was spot on. I heard that, and I thought that was the most prescient thing I had heard. That was literally spot on. And so, yes, I agree that's true. It's also laughable. Well, we're going to save the environment by not letting cows have flatulence in our fields anymore. We're going to grow the meat in a lab. Wow. That's going to go over swimmingly. So first story I got is a reminder of a story that we had last week that kind of went viral. This is a follow-up to it. Daily Wire had this piece, came out yesterday. The headline is, "I'd rather eat my shoe," says a nutritionist about lab-grown meat. Says a nutritionist is warning of the lack of public information that's available on lab-grown meat. I still have a hard time saying that. Lab-grown meat.
It's just, blah. Blah.
Okay. Anyway, going so far as to say she'd rather eat her shoe than eat meat grown in a lab. So last week, as a reminder, the U.S. Department of Agriculture made the United States the second country in the world, after Singapore, to approve the sale of, they call it, cultivated meat. You need to have the camera on your face right now, man.
That's just even worse.
It is. Ugh. It's just it just makes you want to kind of curl up a little bit. Gives you that pit of the stomach feeling like, that ain't right. In an interview with the New York Post, a lady named Diana Rogers, who's a registered dietitian and the author of a book called Sacred Cow, The Case for Better Meat, there's a great name, warned of the unknowns regarding lab-grown meat and advocated sticking to natural. And she points out there's 2 companies. One's called Good Meat. The other one's called Upside Foods. They've now been approved to sell chicken created from animal cells. Now I know I just picture this kind of pasty, flappy piece of tissue, this fleshy looking thing.
Just stop.
I was waiting to see if you're gonna look up.
Oh.
Just a little piece of raw flesh laying there in the. Yeah. Okay. So that's what I'm picturing. The U.S. Okay. I'll skip that piece. Let me go down. According to Good Meat, its lab-grown meat is made from cells of chicken, salt, and a base of soy and wheat. Okay. They were reportedly unable to provide the New York Post, with a nutritional label because, as of now, the product will only be served in restaurants, not in grocery stores. Nevertheless, the company said its product was protein-rich and had essential amino acids and was antibiotic-free. Whatever, man. It's grown in a petri dish. Ain't nobody needs that. But here's the thing. What is wrong with natural meat? Well, cows have flatulence. Okay. Chickens scratch the earth. So apparently we're saving the environment. But to do that, we have to create something fake other than what was created by our creator. And it just galls me. And this is what we do. It's the fake world that liberals want us to live in. And they always have a dissatisfaction with the current environment. And I say that in the broad sense. The current world in which we live is never right. We got to change it. We've got to, wait a minute, we are God. We're going to go ahead and create something ourselves from scratch. By the way, if you think for a second that lab-grown meat is going to be cheaper, no, it is not. By her own admission in the interview I heard, the lady who was just talking glowingly about how cool it's going to be, and we're growing it in a dish. Have you eaten it yet? Well, I've not had a chance to try many, but I think it's going to be really good. Okay. And I assume the cost is not going to be less, though, than what we might buy in the grocery store now. Well, but like anything else, as the market normalizes, we'll be able to bring. What she's trying to say is once the government forces you to start eating it, it'll come down in price. Sure, that's the way it's going to go. What about this? Let's talk about fake people. The transgender movement, this is, by the way, I'm not commenting on just homosexuality in general, all right? I'm not. The transgender movement is almost becoming a new movement in and of itself. The idea that there's more than two genders is a falsehood. And if anybody has a difference of opinion, you're welcome to call in and try and debate it, but you won't win because science is what it is. You can't hide numbers. X and Y chromosomes are what they are. There are two genders, and it has been that way, by the way, since the beginning of time. Don't try and tell me, well, there were really transgenders who didn't want to come out. No, there weren't. This is a piece of fiction that has been created in modern times. Like 10 minutes ago, we didn't have transgenders. Now we do. Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs, that uber liberal who somehow or another beat Carrie Lake in the election for governor, recently signed, according to the Daily Wire, dated yesterday, 2 executive orders that would mandate health insurance coverage to cover sex change surgeries for state employees and to ban state funds from going towards conversion therapy for minors. Do you know what that is, by the way? What is conversion therapy? That's where you allow counseling to help a kid who has been told by his parents that he or she is really not the sex they were born as, to understand how to sort of come back and how to bring them back. Folks, the idea that we're going to ban that kind of counseling is just absolutely clear indication that she is not about what's good for kids. Okay. Anyway, that being said, and I'm not sure how an executive order is, I guess it's only to state employees, but she is mandating that insurance companies have to cover elective surgeries for converting people and doing sex change operations. Again, creating fake people, denying people the opportunity for counseling to be restored to their right minds. She is pursuing a route of a fake world. And that's the governor of the state of Arizona. Have I got a call? Let me jump on that real quick before I go to the break. Is that Brian? Brian from Huntsville. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Doing well, sir, and everything's been interesting. I'm so glad you had Congressman Brooks on. That was very informative. It really is.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
But real quick, wasn't it the Tower of Babel where we thought that we could be on the level with God and smacked our hands and took our ability to communicate away?
Yeah. Yeah, Brian, you're breaking up a little bit. I think what I heard you say wasn't it the Tower of Babel where they thought that we could touch heaven, we could be like God, and it didn't work out too well for them.
Right.
Is that what you were saying?
Correct. And then it was then later on at Pentecost, he reminded us he could restore that if he wanted to when he let people speak in tongues. So Wuhan Lab kind of proved that some things we don't need to either touch on or make judgment on. Like you were saying about why can't we use what God has created for us, and why can't we can improve it perhaps. We have, but don't eliminate it.
No, I completely agree. You're right. And usually what you find too is the natural was always the better solution. The reality was actually the better solution. Deal with the reality you've got. Creating the fake world typically winds up having second and third order consequences that no one saw coming.
All right. Thanks for chatting for a moment.
Thanks, Brian. Have a great day, buddy. All right, tell you what, boom, that's a good time. Go ahead and take the break right now. We'll do it. We'll come right back. I got a few more of these. How do I cram them all in? Like the fake idea of systemic racism, or the fake version of, did you hear the state of Connecticut? They've got an official name now for Latinos. We'll talk about it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Well, I got so many things here that I don't know that we can cram them all in, but I'm doing this whole section here. I'm calling it the fake world. Liberals do this. They will create a fake in place of the real and tell you it's better, and you never realize there was a problem with the real in the first place. Like, for instance, how many of us have ever stood around going, I'm just not so sure I can eat that steak because, cow flatulence destroys the ozone layer. No, nobody's doing that. Nobody even thought about that kind of thing. This is a fabricated opportunity for them to have a new crisis. And they do this constantly. And then they'll tell you things like, hey, the U.S. military is systemically racist. I spent 30 years in the military. No, it's not. My father spent 22 years in the military. No, it's not. My grandfather spent 31 years in the military. No, it's not. I have other family members in the military right now. It's still not. And yet, here we go. One Army veteran, according to a story from Fox News, he's a Florida congressman, actually, Army veteran, is leading a push to end a Biden initiative on equity and inclusion that he says has done nothing but create division in the military and weakened U.S. forces. All right, so here's the deal. In an effort to prove that the crisis that they've manufactured is real, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, if you remember, as soon as he was appointed, under orders from his new commander-in-chief, who told us how racist we are, immediately did a system-wide halt in the DOD of all training and mandated that they begin looking at the possibility that extremism is pervasive in the ranks. They've also begun setting up defense advisory committees on diversity and inclusion, and Republican Representative Corey Mills, who himself is a veteran, has already cleared the first hurdle to be able to eliminate that. He got it written into the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act. Still has to pass the Senate, still has to pass the full body of the House. But basically he got it put in the budget that money cannot be spent on this ridiculous DEI movement within the DOD. So Mills' amendment this year to the National Defense Authorization Act would disband the committee, which was created under a 2021 executive order by President Biden, with the goal of promoting diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. What they've done, y'all, is they have created a manufactured opportunity to prove that there was a problem. And I love it when they bring the solution and then find the problem to go with their solution. They brought us fake meat, told us we had a problem we didn't know we had. They brought us 72 genders and the ability to tell people that men can have babies. And no, we know that's not true, but they're insistent that it really is. And if you don't agree, you're homophobic. No, we're not. At the same time, they're telling us that our U.S. military is systemically racist. And no freaking it's not. No freaking it is not. But they want you to believe it is because it fits the narrative. So what do? It's systemically racist. It's pervasive. We need to make sure we root it all out of there. We're going to dig through. Meanwhile, they are crushing morale. They are crushing recruiting. And the rank and file troops, we got good troops, man. And they're integrated. And they work well together. And they'll work in the same foxhole. But no. Anyway, in the meantime, just know this. We got somebody on our side pushing back. There's that. How about, let's see, let me find, I'll take this one. Story again on Fox News. Is this the one I want? Yeah, I'll do this one. Story again on Fox News. Men and women's sports. Okay, so this kind of flies in the Boomer shaking his head.
I'm over men and women's sports. Fake women in women's sports. Just stop already.
I'm saying. Yeah.
Come on. You're a dude.
Just be the dude you are. You know what? If you can't win, just go compete somewhere else. Where this is.
Get over it.
I know. It's unbelievable. All right, a guy named Austin Killips. Austin Killips, a transgender female cyclist, which means a fake woman cyclist, spoke out in an article over the weekend about the nature of the discourse surrounding transgender athlete participation in women's sports. It was concerning, he said. They want to say she, I said he. Adding that trans athletes are statistically underrepresented in sports. Here's the next crisis. The transgender athletes are underrepresented. They're creating the next crisis so they can bring the fake woman in to compete. Now, I take note of the fact, Boomer, I take note of the fact. I have seen very few fake men competing in men's sports.
Correct.
What? Pray tell, why would that be?
Well, let's just break it down real quick. These fake women, they're coming because they just can't really win in the actual men's sports, so they're trying to make themselves feel better by going to women's sports. And come on, I mean, just
They were tired of their participation trophies,
they
and they just wanted the real medal.
they
please.
wanted that real medal.
I should be given a medal. So anyway, yeah, that's what they're doing. But they're creating another fake one here. So this is like a double fake. It just occurred to me. This is fake people, fake crisis, trying to get fake wins. That's a triple. Wow. That
is a triple.
That's like a layered fake. Okay, anyway, just saying, fake world, it continues. Although I will say this is interesting. I found this is a little scary. Daily Caller had a piece, headline, Chat GPT. That's one of those AIs, like Sydney. Oh, yeah. Chat GPT scolds an NCAA athlete for her beliefs on women's sports. Scolded. So NCAA athlete claims that Chat GPT scolded her for believing that biological men don't belong in women's sports. NCAA volleyball player Macy Petty said she used Chat GPT to write down her thoughts about the issue of transgender people. She wanted AI to help her condense her thoughts into a 280-character tweet, which I find fascinating in itself. And Chat GPT basically told her opinion was wrong. I understand, this is what it said to her. I understand you would like to highlight the importance of girls' sports being exclusive to girls. However, it's important to emphasize inclusivity and equality in sports rather than promoting exclusion based on gender. Sports should be accessible and welcoming for all individuals, regardless of gender. And it points out AI is apparently broken beyond parity. I'm just saying, folks, listen, I hear the music playing. I had 3 more articles, but we'll stop there. But what I'm saying is this. Liberals love to create the fake world. They create the fake crisis, bring you the fake alternatives for solutions. It's a fake world. I'm sticking with the real. All right, folks, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. You guys come back here tomorrow, too. We'll be here for you. See you then.